All right, this is solving by factoring part 2. And as you can see, I've got a pretty complicated looking quadratic equation that we're going to solve. And it's got these messy fractions in it. So I'm going to show you a few little tips along the way. First thing that I would do is factor anything that you can. So I'm going to leave the first fraction alone. And I'm going to take the second one here. And I'm going to take the bottom stuff, which I see is a factorable trinomial, and factor it. So this is going to be x times x. And then we're trying to make -4 in such a way that we get +3. So I'm thinking +4 and -1. And then over here, well, we'll just leave this guy alone. Okay. So that's first thing you want to do, get all this stuff factored. Now, while it's all factored here, we should make a note, and maybe I'll do that at the bottom here, that there are certain values that x is never allowed to equal, such as -4. So that would turn this into 0, and also +1. These are troublesome areas. And the reason we want to note that is, should we, at the end of all this, come up with a couple of answers, and maybe one of them was, say, -4, we would have to reject it. So we just kind of put this on the shelf here, and we worry about that later on when we're done. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all these fractions. And to do that, I am going to multiply everything by the denominators. So I want to multiply everything by x plus 4 and also by x minus 1. And I do mean everything. So each term here is going to get multiplied by both of these. So what's that going to look like? Well, I'm going to make a little more room here. Just clear this stuff away. So what it's going to look like is, and maybe I'm going to write everything out so you can really see what's going to cancel here. Our first term is going to have x plus 4 and x minus 1 times by x. And it's all over x plus 4. Now, I like to put brackets around the denominator here, even though there wasn't any brackets before. So it helps me look at this and say, oh, this is going to cancel with this. I can cancel that out. No more fraction. Okay. Now we'll carry on simplifying that later. In the middle here, this term here, well, we're going to have x plus 4 times x minus 1 all over 2 minus x. All times 2 minus x, and all over x plus 4 and x minus 1. Now, the beauty is this guy cancels and this guy cancels. So this really simplified for us. And we're on to our last term where we have 1 on the top timesing that by x plus 4 and x minus 1. And on the bottom we have x minus 1. And again, I'm going to put brackets around it so I can see this little bundle cancels with this little bundle. So I have no more fractions. In fact, here's what I have. I have x times x minus 1 on the left side. In the middle here, I've got 2 minus x, and then I've got plus, and here I just got the x plus 4. So that's really cleaned things up considerably. Now, let me just clear this, and we'll carry on solving. So now I'm going to expand out the left side. So I would have x squared, and then minus x. And on the right side, we would have, actually, it's quite nice. If you look at it, you've got 2 minus x, and then you've got plus x plus 4. Actually, I'll write that, just so you can really see what's going on here. Look at these 2 x's in the middle. These guys add up to nothing. They just cancel with each other, and all I have is 6. Well, I'm going to move that 6 over to this side. So this is now minus 6 and produce a 0. And now I'm going to carry on and see if I can factor this and solve just like I did with previous examples. So we have x times x and 3 times 2, negative 3 and positive 2. So it looks like I have two solutions, 3 and negative 2. Now remember those restrictions we had earlier. I'll just write them here if you forgot. The no-no zones were negative 4 and 1. Well, we came up with 3 and negative 2, so we're okay. So these are legitimate good solutions. So that is now solved. So we're on to my next example. This is another one where I'm going to create a quadratic equation given the solution. So create a quadratic equation, and we're going to give you some interesting solutions given that the solutions, let's see, given solutions where we have 2/5, okay, a little more interesting, 2/5 and negative 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to try to create a quadratic equation given these two fractions as solutions. A little bit trickier than we did before. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start off with my brackets. So I'm going to say, yep, this is our basic template, and we want to make it so that 2/5 is a solution. So I want to make this x minus 2/5. And if I want negative 1/2 to be a solution, I'm going to make this plus 1/2. Okay, now I'm going to expand out the brackets. So I would have x squared and then plus 1/2 x minus 2/5 x. And finally minus, now this would be 2 over 10. I'm going to reduce that down to 1/5. And that equals 0. So now let's get rid of the fractions and clean the mess up a little bit. So I'm going to multiply everything by a number divisible by 2 and 5. Well, that number is 10. So if we multiply everything by 10, we're going to have 10x squared plus 10 times 1/2 is 5x. 10 times negative 2/5 is going to be negative 20 over 5, or 4 x's. And 10 times negative 1/5 is negative 2, equals 0. And lastly, I'm just going to go ahead and combine these terms in the middle, and so that's just going to be 10x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. So we've now just created an equation given the two solutions. And that's where I'm going to stop for now.